Welcome back, everyone, to J-Face Games. Today we are talking about disadvantage. If you're new to the channel, we talk about different aspects of different role-playing games with the intent of building a role-playing game. So I'm building a role-playing game on this channel, and I'm taking you through the process. And we're stealing from other games when we want to, with, noting their influence. And then we're also kind of building our own. So today we're talking about disadvantage. And we really haven't talked about disadvantage in the system because I didn't know if I wanted to use it. Mainly because if you're new to this game that we're designing here, I think I'm calling it the pressure system, because of the pressure dice we use as in essence a DC, a difficulty challenge, a difficulty rating. So I didn't know if it was going to work out. So the way this game works is you have attributes, and those attributes are things like leadership, or leader, controller, striker, defender, marksman, and mystic. And these are your attributes, right? And they're very combat oriented, obviously, and they represent what you're able to do, in essence, the actions you're trying to take. And each one has a different dice associated with it, D4 through D12. Now, with advantage, it made sense. Okay, well, if we're going to do advantage, how do I make sure that abilities scale well and they're not becoming godly, right? Because if you've got a D4 with advantage, meh. But if you've got a D12 with advantage, you're going to be really good, right? Because it scales incredibly, right? So, with that in mind, we started using advantage with specific dice, right? So then this is the iconography currently in workshopping, where what this means is that here's your normal dice. This means, like, if you saw this in the text, this would say, this is what you roll. You roll D12, or you roll D12, you roll D8, D10. This would mean advantage, this color, and it would be probably a different color. These are just the colors I found online, where it would say plus D12 means that you're rolling your dice plus a D12 and you're taking the higher. This would mean you're rolling your dice plus a D4 and you're taking the higher. These mean you're rolling your dice plus a step down or a step up from your dice. So if your dice is a D6, this means you're rolling a D6 and a D8. This means you're rolling a D6 and a D4. Why did we choose this? Because this makes it so that powers now scale a little bit differently, right? If I have an ability at first level or initial tier, and it says this ability gives you a plus D6 advantage, right? That might be really good early on because I might only have an ability that's a D6. But later on, it's nice because if I ever get my fighting or my striker up to a D10, that ability scaled appropriately, meaning it's a D10 plus a D6 and I take the higher, as opposed to it being a D10 plus a D10 and I take the higher, which is really good. And for those that don't know what the pressure die is, the pressure die is a dice from D4 to D12 that you're rolling against. Right? It's going to be, I've got to roll my dice against the D10 pressure die, and I'm trying to get mine to be higher. Higher, it's a success. If we roll the same number, it's a success with consequence. And if I roll lower, then I failed, right? So that's the advantage system. Disadvantage system, I just never knew if I wanted to give a disadvantage, because I always wanted to kind of be building the players as opposed to penalizing them, right? And just make it more difficult in the scenarios, and that would be the quote-unquote penalty. Or the pressure dice would be the penalty, quote-unquote, as opposed to giving them a penalty. But there are certain things that are going to be nice, right? Like if you think about like Reckless Barbarian in 5th edition, it makes it so that you're more susceptible to getting hit, but you're doing more damage. So you can have that risk reward built into the system by you give someone the opportunity to have a disadvantage, and then they are getting some sort of reward on the back end, hopefully. So disadvantage would be the exact same thing, but now you're taking the lower result. And the nice thing is that it just flips, right? Where if you think about it, if I have a D4 ability, or we'll say a D6 ability. Say my striking is D6. And I have disadvantage plus D12. The odds of the D12 rolling a lower number than the D6 is a lot less likely than, say, my disadvantage was another D6. If I have to roll 2D6 and take the lower, that might suck, right? But if I have to roll a D6 and now a D12 as well and take the lower, it's not too bad, right? There's a chance I could still roll a 1 on that d12, but it's not as bad, right? Especially if I had an ability that was a d4 plus a d12. Like say my leader ability is a d4, but I'm disadvantaged and I have a d12. Chances of rolling a 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the d12, it's still a 33% chance of rolling one of those numbers, but it being lower than the d4, it's like not as bad, right? So that's nice. And so that way we can scale the disadvantage in ways that we want when we think about these different powers and abilities. So let me know what you think. This was workshopped. This is not final art, obviously, like I said before. This was workshopped a little bit in the Discord channel, which was cool. I was able to kind of float this idea, and we ran the math on it and through AnyDice, and it looked pretty good. So if you want to join the Discord channel, hit the link down below. Come join, because there's a lot of other people that are talking about their games, and that's inspiring too, because they've got some really good ideas. And I'm probably going to highlight some of those in these videos, because some of them I might want to, take some ideas from. And so that's the disadvantage system. Let me know what you think here as well. Just send me comments. I think it's going to work nicely in the powers as things are kind of flushing out. If you want to know more about the pressure system, the last video we did sort of like a mock encounter. So that shows how the pressure system works. I'm really excited about that as well. The pressure die and having that sort of risk reward, and how do you mitigate that pressure. So I'll talk to you guys soon.